What if the answers to life's deepest mysteries, our origin, our purpose, and our destiny, have already been written, not in ancient stone or buried scrolls, but in a massive, otherworldly book dictated by celestial beings? There exists a tome shrouded in enigma, revered by some as the most profound spiritual revelation of the modern age, and dismissed by others as a strange cosmic riddle. It's called the Urantia Book, a 2,000-page compilation said to have been delivered by superhuman intelligences to guide humankind into a new era of enlightenment. But this is no ordinary spiritual text. It doesn't merely preach love, morality, or meditation. It speaks of universes beyond imagining, celestial hierarchies, a cosmic government, the life of Christ as never told before, and a destiny for humanity that transcends time, space, and even matter itself. It presents a vision of reality so vast, so detailed, and so radically different that it leaves even the most seasoned truth-seeker in awe. Yet, why have so few heard of it? Is it too advanced for the collective mind? Was it quietly buried under the weight of institutional religion? Or was it always meant to be discovered only by those whose spirits had reached a certain vibration, those ready to perceive what lies behind the veil of ordinary existence? In this video, we unravel the full story of the Urantia Book, its mysterious origins, the shocking truths it contains, and how it could forever alter your perception of reality. You'll discover the strange and secretive transmission behind its creation, the mind-bending cosmology it unveils, its reinterpretation of Jesus as a universal figure, not just a religious icon, and most importantly, what the Urantia revelation means for your spiritual journey today. Prepare to go beyond Atlantis, beyond the pyramids, beyond the stars, into the very architecture of the multiverse itself. Because once you learn what Urantia truly means, you may never see Earth, or yourself, the same way again. To understand the gravity of the Urantia Book, one must first look beyond its pages and into the peculiar birth of its existence. It did not emerge from the hands of mystics, monks, or scholars in some ancient desert cave or Himalayan monastery. Instead, it surfaced in early 20th century Chicago, under circumstances so mysterious they remain a puzzle to this day. The book was not written in the traditional sense, it was transmitted, or rather, delivered through a process described only as sleeping subject communication. The central figure in this phenomenon, a man whose identity was never publicly confirmed, reportedly fell into deep trances, during which vast volumes of content were dictated by invisible personalities who claimed to be part of an interstellar administration tasked with guiding planetary evolution. The group that documented and compiled these transmissions would eventually become the Urantia Foundation, custodians of what they believed to be a revelation for a new age of spiritual awakening. But to truly grasp the essence of the Urantia Book, we must decode the meaning of its name. Urantia is the celestial term given to our planet, Earth. It's how higher beings supposedly refer to this world in the records of the universe. The book itself presents Earth not as an isolated speck in the cosmos, but as a dynamic participant in a vast and intelligent cosmic order, a universe brimming with life, design, and purpose. According to its pages, our world is one of countless inhabited planets, all part of an immense celestial structure governed by divine laws, overseen by spiritual administrators, and evolving toward ever greater levels of perfection and light. Philosophically, the Urantia Book is not merely an account of cosmic mechanics, it is a map of soul progression. It speaks of a universal Father, a central, infinite source from which all personality and creation emanates. It integrates science, philosophy, and religion into a singular narrative that attempts to reconcile the spiritual with the rational, the eternal with the temporal. Its revelation suggests that humans are not passive creations but active agents in a grand evolutionary plan, a plan that stretches across eons and galaxies. This view, while awe-inspiring, is not without precedent. The concept of a multi-layered universe and divine hierarchy can be traced through the secret traditions of Hermeticism, the mystical visions of Kabbalah, and the spiritual architecture described in the Vedas. Like the teachings of the Gnostics, the Urantia narrative sees humanity as divine in origin, fallen into forgetfulness, and slowly making its way back to the source through knowledge, experience, and spiritual refinement. But unlike many mystical systems that veil their wisdom in symbolism and allegory, the Urantia Book is explicit. It outlines detailed cosmologies, defines orders of celestial beings, and names the structures of governance that allegedly oversee the universes. So why has such a document remained largely unknown? The answer may lie in its very boldness. It challenges conventional religious teachings without directly opposing them. It reframes Jesus, not just as the Son of God born in Bethlehem, but as Michael of Nebadon, a high-ranking universe sovereign who incarnated on Urantia to complete a cosmic mission. It bypasses ecclesiastical authority, inviting direct communion between the soul and its divine origin. And perhaps most importantly, it insists that truth is not exclusive to any one tradition, that revelation is ongoing, progressive, and available to all who sincerely seek it. Many spiritual texts throughout history have been veiled, sealed, or burned, not because they were false, but because they were dangerous to those in power. Could the Urantia Book be yet another casualty of this pattern, hidden in plain sight because its truths are too vast, too liberating, too paradigm-shifting for the masses to digest all at once? Whether divinely inspired or an astonishing work of metaphysical imagination, the Urantia Book stands as one of the most audacious spiritual documents of our time. It dares to answer the questions religions often sidestep. Who are we? Where did we come from? Where are we going? And most importantly, why? And the answers it offers are unlike anything you've ever heard. To begin unraveling the teachings of the Urantia Book, we must prepare ourselves to cross a threshold, one that separates conventional spirituality from a cosmic revelation so detailed, it feels more like an interdimensional map than a religious scripture. The text is divided into 4 massive parts, each functioning like a key to unlock a layer of reality. The first part, the central and superuniverses, introduces us to a cosmology that dwarfs even the grandest myths. At its heart is the Universal Father, an infinite, eternal, all-knowing source that dwells at the center of all things. Around this divine nucleus revolves the Isle of Paradise, the unchanging axis of all creation. Radiating from this center are 7 superuniverses, each composed of billions of inhabited worlds, each guided by divine administrators, and each evolving toward spiritual perfection. Urantia, our Earth, is but a tiny, rebellious sphere in one of the most remote regions of the 7th superuniverse, known as Urantia. This seemingly insignificant position, however, is by no means accidental. According to the book, Earth is part of a larger experimental system of worlds, an evolutionary laboratory where free will, struggle, and spiritual growth collide in dramatic ways. This partially explains the chaos, conflict, and divine confusion that mark human history. But rather than framing suffering as punishment, the Urantia Book describes it as raw material for soul-making, opportunities for spiritual maturity and moral choice that will eventually forge eternal personalities out of transient flesh. The second part of the book, The Local Universe, drills deeper into our spiritual neighborhood, called Nebadon, presided over by a sovereign named Michael, who is none other than the being we know as Jesus. Yes, the Urantia book radically recontextualizes the life of Christ. He is portrayed not just as a messianic figure from ancient Judea, but as a creator son, one of many divine beings who are responsible for organizing and evolving universes according to divine will. His decision to incarnate on Earth wasn't random. It was the final act in a series of bestowals, each taking place on a different planet, designed to help him fully understand and embody the experience of his own creation. This reframing of Jesus is not meant to erase the sacredness of the Gospels but to expand it, to universalize it. His life on Earth becomes part of a cosmic narrative that stretches across galaxies. Every act of compassion, every moment of struggle, every tear and drop of blood shed in Gethsemane takes on new meaning. It wasn't merely about redemption. It was about a divine creator walking among his own creations, not only to save but to understand, to experience, and to complete his divine mission. And it is here that the Urantia book takes a leap beyond almost every known spiritual tradition. It presents a universe not governed by chaos, nor ruled by blind karma, but operated by an intricate, compassionate, and profoundly personal cosmic order. There are angels, yes, but also beings far beyond them, thought adjusters, who are literal fragments of God implanted in our minds, Melchizedeks, who serve as divine teachers and administrators, and a staggering array of celestial personalities whose sole purpose is to shepherd creation toward light and life. The third part of the book, The History of Urantia, outlines Earth's evolutionary journey with astonishing detail, from the formation of the planet over 4 billion years ago to the appearance of early humans, and the gradual emergence of civilization. It introduces the idea that certain divine interventions, like the arrival of Adam and Eve, or the mission of Mashiventa Melchizedek, were actual historical events, albeit misunderstood or mythologized over time. These weren't symbolic stories, according to the text, they were real episodes in the planet's spiritual development, veiled in allegory and fractured memory. What is perhaps most striking is the tone of the writing, not fanatical, not preachy, but precise, serene, and almost scientific in its delivery. There is a strange calm in its voice, as if the beings who delivered it are not trying to convince you, but merely reveal what always was. It doesn't demand belief, it invites understanding. And as you continue to read, a quiet realization begins to emerge. This book is not just about history, science, or theology, it is about you. About the journey of the soul from its first flicker of self-awareness to the final embrace of divine fusion. It tells us that we are not random. We are not alone. We are not forgotten. Instead, we are beings in process, gods in the making, on a long, slow ascent toward perfection. But if this is true, why has so much of it been kept hidden? And what happens to the soul once it leaves the body? To truly grasp the magnitude of the Urantia book's vision, we must go even deeper, beyond history, beyond cosmology, and into the very essence of the soul. If the first 3 sections of the book paint a map of the external universe, the fourth and final section focuses inward. And it is here that the Urantia book reveals one of its most intimate and revolutionary insights, that every human being is indwelt by a fragment of the divine, the thought adjuster. Unlike other spiritual traditions that describe the higher self or divine spark in symbolic terms, the Urantia Book describes this phenomenon as literal. The thought adjuster is said to be an actual pre-personal fragment of the Universal Father, sent to live within the human mind for the duration of a mortal life. It is not your soul, it is the seed of your soul. It does not control your will, but it lovingly guides you through the maze of moral choice, spiritual hunger, and existential longing. And when a human freely chooses to follow truth, beauty, and goodness, the adjuster gradually fuses with the personality, creating an immortal, perfected being destined for eternal ascension. And that ascension is not abstract. It is detailed, structured, and staggeringly vast. According to the Urantia revelation, death is not an end but a portal. Upon leaving the material body, the soul, now a blend of human experience and divine presence, awakens on the mansion worlds, training spheres designed to gradually detach the soul from material limitations and prepare it for life in higher spiritual realms. One by one, the soul passes through stages of purification, learning, and expansion, shedding illusion and gaining wisdom, until it eventually stands before the very source from which it came. But this path is not one of isolation. It is deeply relational. The universe of the Urantia Book is not a cold, mechanical machine. It is a living organism filled with personalities, angelic beings, spirit guides, ascendant mortals, and administrators of immense wisdom. Love, service, and the pursuit of truth are the currency of this universe. No soul is abandoned. No failure is final. Every being is given time, sometimes eons, to choose fusion with the divine or to step away. Even the so-called fallen are not forever condemned, but lovingly offered rehabilitation through what the book describes as the Ancients of Days, judges of mercy, not vengeance. And then comes one of the most astonishing propositions of the entire text, that eventually, perfected human beings, once fused with their thought adjusters, may be entrusted with divine missions, becoming co-creators, even contributors to the unfolding of universes yet unborn. It is not a closed system. The journey does not end at heaven's gates. It extends eternally, spiraling upward into ever more sublime expressions of being, consciousness, and love. But the Urantia Book also acknowledges the darkness, that spiritual rebellion is real, that celestial beings too have misused their will. The story of Lucifer is retold, not as a mere morality tale, but as a tragic account of cosmic betrayal. Lucifer, once a brilliant system administrator, chose the path of pride, claiming that beings did not need to submit to the Universal Father to attain enlightenment. He convinced others, including Caligastia, the planetary prince assigned to Urantia, who subsequently led a rebellion that disrupted Earth's spiritual development for millennia. This rebellion, we're told, was not punished with hellfire, but with patient quarantine. Earth became spiritually isolated, left to struggle through its darkness without direct contact from the celestial family. This perspective reframes so much of human suffering, not as divine punishment, but as a consequence of disconnection. And yet, despite this cosmic fallout, help still came. Jesus, Michael of Nebadon, chose Urantia for his final bestowal, not because it was holy, but because it was broken. His incarnation was both redemptive and revelatory, not only bridging the gap between the finite and infinite, but declaring to the universe that even the most wounded worlds are worthy of divine presence. In this light, the Urantia Book is not just a cosmic disclosure, it is an invitation. A call to awaken. A whispered remembrance that you are more than a body, more than a mind. You are a soul in process, a child of the infinite, entangled in a majestic, evolving symphony that stretches across the galaxies. But with such immense possibility comes great responsibility. For the soul must choose, freely, consciously, lovingly, whether it will ascend, evolve, and embrace fusion, or remain in spiritual dormancy. And so, what does this mean for you here, now, in this human life? Can this celestial knowledge be applied in a world still caught in war, doubt, and disconnection? If the cosmic revelations of the Urantia Book are true, if each of us is truly indwelt by a fragment of the divine, and our lives are part of an eternal, soul-evolving journey, then the question arises, how do we live in alignment with that truth? What does this immense, galactic narrative mean for your day-to-day reality, your relationships, your pain, your search for meaning? The book offers more than cosmic grandeur, it offers a way of being. And that begins with conscious partnership, with your thought adjuster, the silent divine companion within. The adjuster does not speak in words, but in impressions, nudges, and quiet waves of clarity. To commune with it, one must cultivate inner stillness. In the Urantia teachings, this is referred to as worship, not as ritualistic praise, but as a focused, soul-level communion with the Universal Father through silent receptivity. Regular periods of spiritual solitude, free from distraction and egoic noise, are essential. This is where guidance flows, not from an external voice, but from the gentle unfolding of truth within your own consciousness. The book also emphasizes service as the highest expression of spiritual maturity. You are not meant to climb the cosmic ladder alone. Every act of kindness, every patient word, every effort to uplift another soul, is part of your ascension. Service is not merely a moral good, it is the method by which your soul grows. In giving, you become. In loving, you evolve. In choosing what is true, beautiful, and good in each moment, you activate the divine circuitry within you. Life becomes a sacred practice, not of perfection, but of persistent striving toward the divine ideal. This spiritual path is intensely personal, yet universal. There are no gurus, no dogmas, no hierarchical gatekeepers. The Father fragment within you knows your name, your struggles, your dreams. The spiritual growth of each person is unique, unfolding according to your willingness to align with higher values. But growth requires effort. The book speaks often of decision, that your soul is shaped by the choices you make when faced with moral tension. In moments of confusion or darkness, the adjuster does not remove the burden of decision, it simply illuminates the better path, leaving you free to follow it, or not. One of the most empowering aspects of the Urantia teachings is that they acknowledge the real challenges of Earth life. This world is a decimal planet, a unique, experimental sphere where evolutionary unpredictability is intensified. Mistakes are expected. Conflict is part of the process. The goal is not flawlessness, but faithful striving. Even failure, when faced honestly, becomes a tool of transformation. As the book says, the greatest affliction of the cosmos is never to have been afflicted. There are also practical practices that emerge from these teachings, though they are not prescribed like religious laws. Journaling your moral decisions, meditating on divine qualities like patience or compassion, seeking beauty in everyday acts, and reflecting on your soul's eternal trajectory, these are ways to realign your being with the cosmic current. When you wake in the morning, ask not only what the world wants from you, but what the universe is whispering through your adjuster. When you encounter hardship, try asking, what lesson is being crafted for my soul here? What truth am I being invited to live? Another key application is the reframing of your identity. According to the Urantia Book, you are not a lost sinner, nor a passive vessel awaiting salvation. You are a co-creator, a divine experiment, a beloved child of the infinite, tasked with the sacred responsibility of self-mastery and spiritual evolution. This shift in self-perception is transformative. When you begin to see yourself through the lens of eternal purpose, life's trivialities lose their grip. Anxiety fades, and in its place comes quiet courage. And as for relationships, the Urantia Book teaches that true spiritual growth cannot occur in isolation. Others are not obstacles, but sacred mirrors. The way you treat them becomes the very measure of your soul's progress. Forgiveness, empathy, understanding, these are not just virtues, they are spiritual technologies, refining your vibration and expanding your capacity to commune with the divine. Even your work, your art, your parenting, these, too, can be transformed into sacred acts. The universe does not ask for ceremony, but sincerity. Your life, lived in conscious alignment with truth and love, becomes the ritual. The sacred is not locked away in temples or books. It is encoded in every breath, every intention, every choice to uplift rather than diminish. Yet, like any spiritual path, this journey comes with pitfalls. Spiritual pride, intellectual arrogance, obsession with celestial facts over inner transformation, these are traps the book quietly warns against. Knowledge is not the goal, integration is. The greatest truths are not those that fill the mind, but those that awaken the heart. And the true test of any revelation is not how it dazzles the intellect, but how it changes the way you live. So what now? If this resonates, then begin, not by memorizing cosmologies or decoding star maps, but by turning inward. By seeking the quiet voice. By walking the path of beauty, truth, and goodness with humility. That is the application. That is the work. And perhaps, that is the beginning of remembering who you've always been. So now you stand at the edge of a revelation, a vast, multidimensional view of existence that has quietly existed in the background of our world, waiting for the right minds, the right hearts, to find it. The Urantia Book is not a text meant to be passively consumed. It is a portal. A spiritual catalyst. It does not demand faith, it invites awakening. It doesn't ask you to abandon your traditions, your beliefs, or your questions. Instead, it challenges you to expand your perspective, to see the divine not as a distant force or a mythic judge, but as the very source of your breath, your thoughts, your purpose. At its core, the Urantia Book offers a stunningly intimate truth, that you are known. That you are not a cosmic accident, nor a prisoner of karma, nor a helpless subject in a blind universe. You are a child of the infinite, carrying within you a spark of eternity, guided not by fate, but by choice. Every step you take toward truth, no matter how faltering or small, ripples through the universe like a prayer returned. And in time, as you grow, as you rise, you are not just saved, you are transformed. The real miracle is not in the grandeur of galactic systems or the brilliance of celestial orders. The miracle is you, your capacity to change, to love, to seek, to evolve beyond fear into something divine. If you take nothing else from the Urantia revelation, let it be this: your soul matters. Your thoughts matter. Your efforts matter. You are becoming something eternal, one choice at a time. So ask yourself now, not as a passive viewer, but as a seeker, a co-creator, what will I do with this knowledge? Will I dismiss it as too grand, too strange, too complex? Or will I sit with it, let it stir something ancient in me, and begin the quiet, steady work of living a soul-aware life? This is not the end of a story. It is the beginning of a deeper quest. Not outward, but inward. Not to be told what to believe, but to remember what your soul already knows. If this resonated with you, share it. Speak about it. Reflect on it. And most importantly, live it. Because spiritual truths are never meant to be stored in books. They are meant to awaken lives. And perhaps, just perhaps, this is the moment your awakening truly begins.